1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey, Greg.
Hello, Tom.
How's it going?
It's going good, thank you.
Good.
Thanks for getting in touch.
Oh, thank you for showing up, man. This is going to be an awesome time. Greg is with the Feral Housecats. Is it the Feral Housecats, or is it like the Eagles and just Feral Housecats?
I just call us Feral Housecats, but I'm not very precious about it. So I don't, if I see someone list us or name us as the Feral Housecats, I don't feel the need to correct it. But Feral Housecats is how I see it. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Feral Housecats out of Columbus, Ohio.
That's right.
First of all, describe. I don't like to put labels on music. Some people say we're punk rock, we're emo, we're hardcore punk. So many different.
Yeah.
I don't like to say you sound like this. What do you describe yourself as?
Yeah. The simple one I try to use, because the same thing, like there's descriptions generally don't work for most groups, really. Um, but then people want to know something. So what I always say is I call us garageabilly. And my follow up to that is because I try to play rockabilly, but I'm really a garage punk rocker. And so we play songs that go with occasionally diddly doos.
That's that is a perfect description. That's awesome. So, how did Feral Housecats get started?
Well, I was I'm gonna try to make this not make this a humongous long story, but I spent 20 years or so as an actor, theater director, writer, etc., who wished I was a rock and roller, but I just assumed I couldn't do it. Um, uh, my favorite band is The Fall, and when Marky Smith of The Fall passed away, I ended up in a tribute group to The Fall because doing vocals for The Fall is just a lot of shouting and chanting. Anyway, did that for a bit, got me this taste of playing live stuff, and then when the pandemic hit, our bass player suggested to me that I should borrow his guitar and start playing. And I, at age 45, started playing guitar and discovered I loved it. And I started writing songs and eventually just came up with that name, Feral Housecats. I'm a big cat guy, and I like the kind of dichotomy of the name. I can't actually remember exactly how I got that name. And then I just envisioned it as going to be a group of me and whoever I got with me. Little did I know how true that would be. But and so that was 2021 is when that. I mean, 2020 is when I started playing. 2021 is when started recording songs and eventually playing.
Well, that answered two of my next four questions.
Yeah. Okay.
That's awesome. Um, so you've been playing together, just various since about 2021.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And so who's currently in the band and what do they play?
Yeah. So right now, the band, and we're the best we've ever been. And of course, I know people always think that about themselves, but and I do. We got a bass player named David Evans. I have a guitar player, David Auden. He's a brilliant young dude. Most of us are around 50. David Auden's 22 years old. And drummer, we've got a gentleman named Malcolm Bliss is our drummer most of the time. I always need alternates, especially with drummers. You know that story. You never find a good drummer who's not in multiple groups already. So when he's not available, we have just started practicing with another guy. Just had one practice and it was brilliant. His name's David also. So when I practice with him, it's me and three guys named David.
Easy to keep it together, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's all people that like the current band members. Two of them, Malcolm, the drummer, and David Auden, the guitar player. Both of them found because of Craigslist ads. And David Evans was a friend and a fan from our earliest shows in early 2022. And when it came time to need an alternate bass player, he was willing to step in. And shortly thereafter, that our longtime bass player at that time said, "I think it's time for me to turn it over to him." So that's kind of how that went.
All right. So you mentioned that The Fall was your favorite band. Who are your biggest musical influences?
Well, yeah. So certainly the fall. Uh, I really like the two bands that I would say it usually sounds most like we're trying to be like, although we really don't get anywhere close to either of these, are the Cramps and X.
Okay.
Bands, punk bands with, rockabilly to them. The Fall also kind of began as a punkish rockabilly band as well. So those are a couple others that I'm really into. Uh, Nick Cave, been a favorite of mine for many, many years.
Yep.
There's a British man named Luke Haynes that I don't know if in some of these groups, if some of the things I love the most, I'm not sure if they really inform what I'm doing. But of course, you never really know, right? Sometimes you just know this next sound after these two notes, it's got to be this note, and I don't know where I'm stealing it from, but you know, but as I've started, once I started playing guitar and getting into a little bit of more like the rockabilly and psychobilly stuff, I definitely find a little bit of inspiration in groups like Tiger Army and the Living End, and I mean I play one of my guitars is a Brian Setzer signature model, so
Nice.
and I just bought tickets to see the Stray Cats in October, so I'm pretty pumped about that.
Is he back playing?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He apparently you saw the same thing I said where he said his
Yeah.
hands. Yeah, apparently, and I did see posts where he said he's getting better. So that didn't last very long. That can't play stuff. So that's great.
That's amazing because I mean,
Good to be a millionaire.
probably that one of the things I hesitate to do this, but one of the sounds that I kind of heard when I was listening today was the Dead Milkmen.
Okay, I've heard that a little bit before. I love hearing comparisons, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean them in the best possible way.
Mm-hmm.
Dead Milkmen are, I was introduced to them in maybe 87, 88, something like that. And they are, to my wife's dismay, I reference them all the time
Mm-hmm.
because like their first like 5 or 6 albums I had just memorized.
Yeah.
And so she'll say something and I'll reference Bitch and Camaro or
You don't know Mojo Nixon. Your store could use some fixing.
exactly Punk Rock
Yeah.
Girl. Oh, I almost mentioned one that I really can't say on.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll
Oh,
say
by the
after we
way, yeah.
stop
Good
recording.
point. Do I need to lay
Oh
off the swears? Right.
no,
Okay.
no, cursing is fine.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, um, actually encouraged.
Yeah.
Let's see. So, describe your sound to someone who's never heard you. You kind of did that, but just a
Yeah,
little.
I kind of did. Okay, but I have another description, and
Okay.
this I've been kind of thinking of this because I do think we have a pretty original sound, but we're not any weird genre. We're not way out there. We're not blasting theremin noise or anything like that. I love that kind of stuff. We're really just playing within the realm of rock and roll, and I just think that I actually think it's my limitations as a writer and my lack of some. I mean, I have some good knowledge, but I also lack some, and some of my lack of technique causes us to have a little bit of a unique sound within that. Um, I think the songs that I write, I'm almost always the writer of our songs. There's little bits here and other. I don't write David solos for Christ's sake. That guy's brilliant. But uh, but I think the songs I write are really simple, and then they always have, it's not always on purpose. Sometimes maybe I guess I do it on purpose. They'll have something that kind of switches a little bit weird. And I usually don't even know it's weird until I try to bring it to other musicians. And then they tell me, all right, that's a weird shift. Why are we doing it? Whatever, I'll do it. And then we do it. And it ends up being something I like. So there's that. Like we are, definitely a lot of people call us punk. And I think that's right. Like we fit within that. Uh, you know, we're not, your street punk kind of thing or anything. Um, uh, I'm a very limited vocalist, as you've probably heard. I I shout, I chant, a little bit of attempted to sing, and I feel like I write things that work for that. I certainly wouldn't mind playing in a band with a great vocalist someday. That's not me, but that's not what we are. And we're a funny group, I think.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I laughed a
Sometimes,
lot during
yeah,
listening today, for sure.
yeah, and I think this is what I, as a writer when I was a playwright, and I used to do a lot of publicity for the theater and all that. I've always thought I've had a good, thoughtful, unique style of writing. I certainly write some stuff that sucks. I certainly throw out a lot of terrible, according to other people, puns at work all day. That is the way my mind works, and I enjoy it.
Just to throw this out there real quick, do you have kids?
I do not have kids.
Okay.
I'm
But
single. I don't have kids. I have two kitty cats, and that's why I have a lot of guitars.
but because you're 51, you automatically got the dad joke gene.
Yeah, yeah, sure, that's right.
So,
Yeah,
yeah, that's it.
yeah. Um, so yeah, so that there's that, and then another thing that I say to, like, I do think a lot of, I'm sure I guess blowing my own horn, but I do think a lot of what I write is thoughtful and clever, and a lot of it is it's it does get to be a bit emotional at times. I'm writing a lot about trying to find a way through sadnesses and stuff like that. In fact, I recently I have a song that has only been really played in my living room by me, but it has the line, uh, since 2021, I've regaled you with songs to annoy your neighbors to, trying to put a positive spin on the psychological depths I'm in. Um, but at the same time, I don't think I'm like Trent Reznor. It's not that kind of psychological depths.
Right. Yeah, that was that first album was like hit me like a sledgehammer. I was like,
Yeah.
I mean, I was what, 20 to 21, 22, so you already got that angst or whatever. And
Hmm.
you know, girls and you're just,
Yeah.
and so that just yeah, I remember
Black
that
as your
album very,
soul.
yeah, I remember that album well, and just like, oh man, he wrote about
I mean
every
that
girl I
that
ever
that
dated.
yeah. I'd rather die than give you control. Seems like something I would enjoy seeing on a protest video these days.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um so sorry, I got to check my notes.
Yeah, that's all right.
Um
I am a tangenter.
no, it's all good.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Um so what is your songwriting process like? And your
Ah.
recording process?
Uh huh. Uh huh. The songwriting process. I was actually thinking about this today because I was thinking, he's definitely gonna ask me this question, and I wish I had an answer because if I really knew what it was, I probably could be a little bit more prolific. Um, but most of it is just like I almost always come up with the music. I have lots of things that I consider song worthy guitar things where I'll have all the parts, but I don't have any lyrics for them. Um, and that just it usually comes from me trying to learn something and then screwing it up or intentionally screwing it up. Um, I read a quote. I've seen it attribute to Mark Rebo, kind of noise guitarist, but he also was the guitarist for Tom Waits for a long time. And I think it's a quote from him. If not, Oh well, it's a great quote, which is thievery plus mistakes equals creativity. Um,
I
and
like that.
so that's where I come up with the music for things, and then lyrics. I I usually keep trying. Like I'll come up with when it works. Like any writer, you do tons of stuff or try things that never work, right? But when it works is when I get some kind of an idea of what I want the song to be about. And if I can get like two or three lines and figure out what my vocal melody is going to be, usually after that, I don't have a whole lot of trouble coming up with the rest. Um, but I don't get that. I mean, sometimes I do that and I get through the end of it and I decide it sucks. But I don't get that far very often. So, but like I said, if I can figure out what my vocal melody is and what I'm trying to sing about, and usually I've got some kind of what I consider a clever hook line. Um, our most recent song that I think is, well, it's second most, whatever, one of our most recent, "I Love You But I Hate You Too." It's just, to me, that's a really great hook line.
I woke up to the Instagram message from you, and
Oh yeah, yeah.
I saw that message, and I was like, first of all, that was a very good introduction, and I was like, oh, I got to hear this, and I was talking to a buddy at work about it today, and I said I was interviewing you, and I said, yeah, they got this great song. It's called "I Love You, But I Hate You Too," and he's like the band. I was like, yeah,
Oh, that's great. Most
yeah,
people don't get that. Well, and you have a question you asked that I didn't answer yet.
yeah.
The recording process, um, but I'll make that one quick. It's mostly a hodgepodge in the sense. I mean, we generally always record live.
Okay,
First couple things we did weren't. There are a couple people in town that have like home studios or rental studios that we've recorded with. Um, Most notably is a guy named Paul Abbott. I feel like um, I, I feel like we get the best sound when we've worked with Paul. But some of the stuff we've done with some other people has been pretty wonderful in my book too. And he just has this. His apartment is a studio, and he's a drummer himself. He's got some great equipment. Now that being said, in early September we are going into a more actual professional studio called Vaughn Music Studios, where the intention is to record a full album. And this full album, I haven't even picked the songs yet, but it's going to definitely include a lot of things that we've already recorded, because since the band lineup keeps changing and I get better and we play things differently, I kind of feel like and it's still, I mean, we've got like, few hundred listeners on Spotify, but in reality nobody has listened to us. Nobody really has heard us, right? Yes, we have a record, we have a couple CDs. So my point being, we could just create an album and call it a debut. And I don't know. I feel like I want to do this now because I can afford it. Um, B, I feel like we've got a really great lineup of the band. C, I have no freaking clue what the future holds for our world and country, and I don't want to get into too much of that. But like, do stuff while you can. And I'm 51. I got arthritis in my knees. I get little tingles in my hand. Nothing has made it difficult for me to play a guitar, but I have no idea when that'll come. So that's why I like the idea of going into a more professional studio, try to get a sort of a definitive, here's where we are now at our best, and then hopefully keep doing that the rest of my life. But, who knows? And then I have an answer to another question you didn't ask, but kind of did. It's not a beef with a Columbus band, but our other recent song is called "I Want to Be a Cowboy,"
oh yeah,
and it's also not on Bandcamp yet, but when we have another one coming out, and then eventually once the artwork's done, I'm going to release them all as an EP, just an online EP called "The Good, the Bad, and the Barbie," and so that song will be on there. But I Want to Be a Cowboy is on all the other streaming services, and it's really just about a local band called the Mascara Cowboys that are kind of my favorite group in town. They don't sound anything like that song, Um, but it's just, I had some music and I always wanted to write a song called I Want to Be a Mascara Cowboy. I eventually just decided to call it I Want to Be a Cowboy. I certainly do have hopes that some people will accidentally happen upon that song when they're trying to find that 80s thing. I want
Oh
to be
yeah.
a cow. Yeah. So, yeah. So it's not a beef. It's like the opposite. And I mean, they're not like my close buds or whatever. We played some shows together. I can talk to them, but and I'm not, I don't know if they like us as much as I like them, but it doesn't matter. They're pretty awesome dudes and pretty awesome band. So that's one to look up. If anybody's watching this, they don't have a whole lot of music on out there online. They got a lot of live videos, and they do have a couple songs though that they recently released, and I hope there's more coming. Anyway, that's that.
That was great.
Yeah, thanks.
What are you listening to now?
Um, well, certainly, my favorite artist in terms of what, like, I love Nick Cave, right? But his most recent output's not as much my favorite as it used to be. So there's a guy named Luke Haynes. Luke Haynes is a British guy. He had a group called the Auteurs that was slightly famous in the kind of Brit pop era with like Suede and stuff like that.
Okay.
But to my ears, it's just a different and much better band. But then Luke Haynes has gone off in his solo career. Although his last couple albums, like his most recent album that just got released, Going Down to the River to Blow My Mind, it's Luke Haynes and Peter Buck. So he plays with Peter Buck of REM,
Yep.
plays with him. And Luke Haynes, we don't sound like him, but I definitely take, like, Luke Haynes has a lot of songs about musicians. And I'm sure I kind of took that. Like, he's got a song called Lou Reed, Lou Reed. I just love, and the chorus of that is just Lou Reed, Lou Reed.
All right.
He's got a little EP called Adventures in Dementia, which is about some little story about the Fall being on a tour, not knowing that their singer is an imposter, and then getting into a van accident with the neo-Nazi band Screwdriver, and all the he had a whole album called New York in the '70s, which like Dolls Forever, the New York Dolls. That's a
Oh,
band I should mention. Johnny Thunders is one of my favorite guitar players, and I try to steal a lot of tricks from learning his songs. So I listen to that, and then I listen to a lot of for better or worse, often for better, uh, real small indie bands that I'm on all these Facebook message groups with.
yeah.
Trying to do some mutual support stuff. Been listening a lot in my car lately to a group called Igor and the Red Elvises because I just saw them. They're a sort of like they've been around like some 30 some years,
Oh wow.
but sort of like a Russian theme, old timey rockabilly band. But I'm listening to them a lot because I bought their CD and I still got a CD player in my car, and
Nice.
that's what's in the player. And when I'm driving somewhere and I suddenly can't get the really cool but really weak signal station in town or I get too depressed because they're talking too much about all the horrible things in the world, hit CD and whatever's in the player is what I listen to a lot.
I still have a CD player in my truck,
Yeah, excellent.
but I also have Bluetooth. So, um, I tend to if it's a short trip, I just listen to the radio. There's like
Yeah,
two stations that I kind of bounce between. Um, if it's a longer trip, I'll either pull up all the music on my streaming services or XM or something. But
yeah,
yeah, um, and I'm the same. I follow a ton of bands on Bandcamp. I'm following a bunch of bands on Spotify, Instagram, and that's really how I've
hmm
found most of the bands that I'm talking to, and just you know really excited to get their names out there and
yeah.
like
And
you.
I thank you. Yeah, I should be honest. I know a lot of musicians would consider this very gauche, but I listen to us a lot. I
Yeah.
listen to our music a lot because I. It's the same when I'm recording songs, writing songs, listening to songs, or playing live. I like to think that my number one audience is 25-year-old me, and then my ghost after I'm dead, and like those are the people that. Um, and so I mean, I continue to like I've got some 30 songs recorded, but I still oftentimes listen to these things and I'm like, I can't believe this stuff that almost sounds professional or maybe does sound professional. That's me. I made that up. That's I still have that feeling.
Yeah.
Um,
I
and certainly by doing so, yes, we make little bits of streaming revenue and
right. I mean, you got. I'll probably honestly, I'm not ever gonna watch this podcast again. I hate the sound of my own voice. I hate editing these things because I have to listen to me over and over.
I have
Training
always
today.
felt the same until I started recording songs. And for some reason, it doesn't bother me. And hearing myself talk doesn't bother me anymore. If I get a little too ummy, it annoys me. But
Which song of yours means the most to you?
ah, that's a that's a good and difficult question. I'm gonna say a song called MF Sniper,
Yes.
and MF stands for what you think it stands for.
Yep.
Um, and in some ways, I don't like that. That's my answer, but it's I mean it's a song directly about a romantic relationship that didn't last. If one listens intently to the lyrics, you realize there's no complaints about the other person. Like the lyrics basically just state, all right, she was honest with me, but I couldn't walk away, and all this. And the person in the song, by the way, is currently my closest friend. It's not a romance anymore. And luckily she'll come see our shows because she's a brilliant actor, doesn't care about rock and roll so much. She is interested when she'll sometimes go to shows with me and stuff. She'll be interested in because she want like I'll invite her to something if I think the performers are going to be weird and do
Okay.
something silly. This friend of mine is she's a medical clown. Goes into whatever. We don't need to go into that. So that's why in a way it's like I hate the song that means so much to me. I love the lyrics in it, and I
Right.
like to think of it as people could just it's just yes, it does follow the relationship I had with her, but in reality to anybody else it's just hey, this is just a weird relationship. But the reason I consider it the song that means the most to me is one is it is probably the best example of a song that actually does have that kind of rockabilly punkabilly vibe. It's just a plain old 12 bar blues with what I call zooming, when you just slide one fret down and down, which I call it zooming because I learned it from learning songs by Billy Zoom of X.
Okay.
It's got great it's got a neat solo by our original lead guitar player. And it's a great opportunity for solos by our current guitar player, who's by far and away the best guitar player I ever played with. So I really love that. And but also historically within my life. By the way, we may have a new guest. Maybe not. Scratching the back of the chair, but historically within the history of me as a writer and the band, it was not the first song I wrote, but when I came up with that's the song that really made me feel like, oh, I really like my songwriting. I really feel like I can create something really catchy and really neat, and then a little bit offbeat. So yeah, it's just the song that made me feel like, oh, this is what I'm gonna do. This is not just a fun little foray I'm getting into. If I can write a song that I like this much, I'm good, and I can keep at this the rest of my life. So that's why it means that much, yeah. And we've hit this point now where we have enough songs that there's no song that gets played every show.
Nice.
But that And I have not kept track of the set lists of the 78 concerts we've played, but if I did, I bet that's the song that's been played the most.
Okay.
I think.
What was your first gig like?
The first gig, it's also tricky to like determine, well, which one was the first gig, blah 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 blah. So the first one, even though I do kind of think there's one thing me and a guitar player who's not in the group did in this garden show that I called Feral Housecats. So when I count the 78 shows, that's technically number one. But the one I'm really going to call number one is the first time I played with a drummer and played a full set. And it was a drummer and a bass player who ended up being the Feral Housecats with me for a year. It was a Halloween show, and so it was all covers. And the thing going on was the organizer, like I saw on Facebook, hey, looking for bands for our Halloween show. And I had actually played his Halloween show previously with my fall tribute band. We were called the Bedwet Bills. So I messaged him, and he's looking for bands that would do a full set as another band. So like someone did Britney Spears, someone did Sparks, someone did the Yellow River Boys, someone did the B-52s at that show. But I messaged and I said, I don't want to do one band, but what I want to do is several songs, but I'm going to change all the lyrics to cat themed. And he was down with that. So we played. It was a place called Dirty Dungarees, kind of legendary place in Columbus. It is a laundromat, and they got a bar there, little room you go play. Um, uh, and so we played. We were the first group. The very first song was the first time and the only time I've ever really played slide. I tried to play slide because the first thing we did was a medley of gun club songs that I turned into cat themed. So, for instance, the gun club has a song called "Ghost in the Highway." That was "My Food Bowl is Empty." She's like heroin to me just became she gave catnip to me, stuff like that. So we played like 5 or 6 songs like that. The two that I would consider most memorable, I did a song called Cat Fight. Well, yeah, I'll tell that story in a second. One of them, the song we ended with is one that even now is sometimes our closer, and it's "Meow, I Want to Be Your Cat." It's
Yes.
pretty obvious,
Yep.
on "Now I Want to Be Your Dog." Um, it wasn't as good, back in 2021, but as we play it now. But then I did another one, and I called it Cat Fight, and Cat Fight was just Link Ray's Rumble, so the
Yep.
down down down. Um, and I just like, well, it's no lyrics, but you call it Cat Fight, and that makes it cat themed. And I had one of my best lines, I think, and I always thought if I ever write a biography or someone writes a biography about myself, they could use this line, which is the way I introduce the song is like, this is a song called Cat Fight. It's an instrumental. You can sing along if you'd like. And I know there's probably 15 to 20 guitar players in here that can play this better than me, but fuck you, mine's plugged in. And
I love that. I
yeah,
would.
thank you.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So that was the first real gig, and then either before we played that gig or right after, I asked those two. It was Darren and Colette, drummer and bass player. Although Darren, the drummer, he's a brilliant guitar player and band leader of his own. He's not a drummer, but he was for us. Um, I just asked them if they're willing to keep going on as the band, and they said, "Yeah, we will for about a year," because they had plans to. Once Darren's daughter graduated, they were going to leave town and live van life, and they did that. So, but anyway, that's that.
I like I like the way you introduced that song.
Yeah.
It reminded me a little bit of Me First and the Gimme Gimmes. About every third song they introduce as this is a cover,
Huh?
and that's their thing. Is they that's all they do. Me First and the Gimme Gimmes has no original songs.
We had another gig we played, and we played at this venue that was sort of like the clubhouse bar for kind of like a somewhat high end condo thing out in the suburbs. Definitely for a bunch of people that if they paid attention to the lyrics would have been like, what the fuck's wrong with these guys? But nobody ever listens to the lyrics. So, but anyway, it was like the guy who it was actually a friend of mine who I hadn't been in touch with for a while, but it turns out he was running this bar and he was trying to have periodically original music, usually cover bands there, right? So he set that up, and like I found out about it because somebody, it's always the same, right? Some band drops off, so we jumped in. But then when we played, the first person was a solo musician, played only covers. The second was a solo musician, but he did a little bit of cool looping stuff. Played mostly cover, or maybe half covers, half originals. Both of them played a cover of "Last Dance with Mary Jane," and there were a few other songs that both of them played. Now that second guy, I don't remember much about the first guy. The second guy has become a pretty good friend of mine, and he actually does a lot of original music as well. But I understand the gig. I'm not against bands that just like act like a cover band. You get these gigs, and then you got other gigs where you play originals. But anyway, so after that, I just decided, because we were going on last, I was going to introduce our first song as, here's our version of "Last Dance with Mary Jane," and then just play whatever we had in the set. And then I just did that for every song. I was like, all right, well, hope you're enjoying us. Anyway, here's Wonderwall, but then played whatever was next in our set. And like when we did the "Last Dance with Mary Jane" thing, I know that guy, Ben, who's the guy I said I've grown to be pretty good friends with, Mobarad is his band name, which sort of like it's not boredom backwards, but it kind of is in the mirror.
Gotcha.
Because the D is, yeah. But anyway, he went over to the organizer, and I later found out he was like, this doesn't sound like "Last Dance with Mary Jane." And Andy's just like, yeah, I think that's on purpose. And so yeah, I definitely like doing things like that, and I that was sort of on the edge. I know this is you're doing a punk rock podcast and all that, and it's really punk to give a fuck you to all the other bands, and I'm not that punk, right?
Yeah.
I have these little bits of it, but not, and I wasn't trying to be insulting to them. But the first performer, he was gone by the time we played anyway, and I was kind of hoping that people would just see it as a funny bit, which, from what I understand, I mean, Ben certainly did. And from what I understand, those people who did pay attention got it that way. So,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I really, I go to a lot of shows. I try to go to a lot of shows. And from what I've seen from, knowing some people in local bands, and it's, I see a lot of bands giving each other support. And, they may talk some smack on stage or whatever, but it's all in fun.
yeah,
Hopefully, I mean,
yeah,
that's one of the things I love about the punk scene for the most part. You're going to have some bad apples or whatever.
bad vibes.
But,
Yeah.
But for the most part, I like seeing bands support each other. That's
Yeah.
um
Now that being said, I am also down with that. The unfortunate side of that is that every band refers to every other band as being amazing and brilliant. Every time you get off the stage, like I've figured out which phrase means nothing. At least one phrase. "You sounded great" means nothing. Means I want to be nice. I wasn't even paying attention. It might not mean that every time, right? And so I don't. First of all, when we first started playing, and I'm like, I'm playing in a rock and roll band, and in fact, back to that very first show where we played all the covers. I don't think you can see it in the video. I have that. There's a video of that whole show on YouTube, but I definitely was tearing up at times playing. It's like, holy shit, I'm really playing. But like, so for a while, yeah, "You sounded great." When I heard that, it made me think, oh, cool, this band likes it. These guys are going to be interested to come see my next show. These guys, all they'll want to play was like, I learned, it took some time. It doesn't,
yeah. I mean, sometimes it feels like support, and it's really just,
yeah.
look at
And
me.
I've had people tell me I sounded great. This is a recent one. It's pretty funny. I'm not going to name any names or anything, but it was hilarious. There's a festival in town in Columbus called ComFest, and it's awesome. It's, I believe, to be the biggest, like, in the country, completely independent, non-corporate supported festival, and it's been going around like at least 50, more than 50 years. I don't remember exactly how many. But it was a big deal for us a couple years ago to get to play it the first time. This year we played again, had a little bit of a better time slot. But as I was, and it's in an outdoor in this park that's really great, and there's lots of stage going on at once. But as I was running around from behind the stage to up on the stage to get all the gear up there so we could go play, somebody walked past, somebody I know, local musician who's really cool, been beneficial to us, and I like his band. He just told me how great we were. And it's like, well, we haven't played yet. Like, oh, you sounded great. It's like, dude, we didn't play yet. And he's like, yeah, I meant that band. It's like, I got you.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, I'm not mad about it, but it, and
Yeah.
and I'm sure he was baked out of his mind at the time, and that's fine too.
Right.
And then we did play pretty well.
Good. Good. I hope you met his expectations.
Yeah, I don't think he watched, but
Right.
but he's seen us before. He's helped us get gigs. I got no ill will to this dude. But and in fact, there's no way he would ever watch this podcast. And if he did, I bet you he would not remember that we had this exchange.
Even better.
Yeah.
Some of the highlights of some of the standouts of listening to your catalog on Bandcamp today. I Love You, But I Hate You Too. It's not on Bandcamp yet, but to you listeners, go on Bandcamp, Feral Housecats. What do you got on here? Like 10? No, 12?
Oh, we probably have about 20 some songs on there.
12 releases, 12 different
Okay. Oh yeah, because
albums.
the EPs and the album. Yeah. Yeah. I make that confusing.
I didn't write this down, but I think most of them are name your own price.
Oh yeah, everything. I've never yet said anything on Bandcamp that requires payment.
Right. My suggestion is go on there, buy everything on this page, and $20 a release. There's a couple on here that are only one song, but I'm telling you, pay the $20. It's worth every. Just helping you out, man.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah, and Bandcamp might be a little bit less messy than our Spotify page right now. We have a website, feralhousecats.com. Now, I haven't set things up so that you can buy things from there, but we do have there at least a discography page, which I think at least makes it a little bit more clear. Because yeah, the thing I do, and I don't know the best way, but I mentioned earlier something like, I don't know how long I'm gonna be able to do this. So when we've got a song and it's recorded and it's ready, it burns me up to not release it. Right. So I do space things out. We got a song that I think is going to be one of our best ever, coming out September 1st, called Gateway Drug, a Christmas song. Originally I was going to call it Santa is a Gateway Drug. That's the chorus line, Santa is a Gateway Drug. But so I will wait on some things. But what generally happens is when we get like 3 or 4 songs recorded, which is usually what we'll do in a session, I decide I'm going to make that an EP, but I'll release a single, and then a month or 2 later release another single, and then a month or 2 later release another single, and then release it as an EP. So I know it gets like confusing, especially if you're trying to look at the Spotify page, but also I realize that kind of nobody cares in this world right now, and if I get to where people care, that's a positive. But I know I care. So when I look at the feralhousecats.com discography page, it's laid out there, at least a little bit nicer. And then I have a link to the YouTube page of every EP, because everything's on an EP except for the most recent 2 songs, and then a couple little extras, an EP or an album. We did release one album called "Fall in Love with Trash."
Yep.
Okay. Anyway, that's a lot. You were starting to tell me how brilliant some of the songs were, and I.
So just to I loved everything I listened to. The live one, live and fairly pointless, that was fantastic, and that
Oh,
was
thank you.
most of the songs on the EPs, and
Hmm.
so that was a really good. Um,
Thank you.
what's the word for it? Generalization of
Yeah,
this is what.
it's a good representation of who we are.
There you go. That's the word as I was
Yeah,
looking for, and I'm the podcaster,
yeah.
apparently.
Even
Um,
though that's three guitar players ago, and that guy's name was David also. But
um, yes, great representation of your songs. There was
and our personality, I feel
oh for sure,
yeah,
yeah. The song, um, sorry, notes are all over the place. PFL,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
the live version of that on that. Um, you start off that song with a reference to Bob Dylan.
yeah, yeah. Shall I go?
Yeah, tell me the story behind that.
Yeah, and right before that, in the part that's cut off on that, I do ask the crowd, "Is anybody here like Bob Dylan?" You know, um, well, the song's PFL, which stands for Play Fucking Loud, which is just a some Bob Dylan historians will hear that and be like, "Oh, I get it right off the bat," but it's just a great moment in his history. And to me, it's a very punk rock moment. Mid '60s, '65 or '66, right after he had plugged in, started playing electric, and all the folkies were like so angry that their guy Bob Dylan is now playing electric, and he's playing a show, and it's a much bootleg show. So plenty of this is why I've heard it, and in fact, it's been since released officially. But what happens is in between songs, someone in the crowd just yells Judas, and there's some jeers and boos and laughter from the crowd, and then Dylan says into the microphone, "Yeah, I don't believe you. You're a liar." But then he turns away from the microphone, but you can still hear him say to the band, "Play it fucking loud." And so, and then they play Like a Rolling Stone, which is a real heavy rocking song in 1965 to the crowds that only wanted to hear the times they are changing. So that's where I just thought it'd be really great to write a song called Play Fucking Loud. And then the song, what it ended up being about, had nothing to do with, Bob Dylan in that moment. But it kind of, you could think of it as the whole point of the song is just saying, man, sometimes things suck and I feel terrible. What can I do? There's only one thing I can do: play fucking loud. And I think like earlier, before I even had the band, but like you probably, if you use social media at all, you see lots of people like this, right? They start a new thing and you start posting it about it a lot, right? And I did when I was just playing guitar. I'm posting like pictures of my new guitar and videos of me playing guitar and all that. And I would say, and I lived in an apartment then where I couldn't really turn up much, and I had a housemate. But the theater that I was a used to be a part of, and I still kind of was a part of, if they had nothing going on, they would allow me to go down there, take my amps, and then I could play as loud as I wanted. And so I would say sometimes publicly, "Hey, I'm gonna go do my therapy in PFL." So it was just kind of natural to eventually come up with a song of that. And the song has three verses. First one is kind of very political about by the way, that is not my cat meowing in the background, but somebody is. I think my upstairs neighbor. He doesn't mind if I play fucking loud, by the way.
Nice.
But like the first verse is political. Like dumbest orators always draw the biggest crowd. The boys who are the worst are the ones most proud. How can I get out from under this cloud? The second verse is all about that same girl, actually, that I mentioned earlier, with lines like, the fact that she's wonderful just makes me feel worse. Again, very complimentary to her. And then the third verse is sort of the hopeful of a little bit of like, oh, I'm sure my parents think I'm going to hell, but I learned that my dreams are in fact allowed. It's a steep road to climb, but I won't be cowed. And one day I plan to say unto a crowd, play fucking loud. And uh, I mentioned earlier that festival in Columbus, Comfest. That is another time I kind of teared up a little bit when I got to play that song at Comfest, because that, like, Comfest is something that's where I've been going to see bands forever, and it's only a marker. I certainly hope to play bigger and better things than Comfest in the future, but that was a huge moment for me, and I changed lyrics live a lot, and so that one I changed it to, and one day I plan to say to a Comfest crowd, play fucking loud.
I like it. That
Yeah.
yeah, that was definitely a standout. It caught my ear. I had it going in the background while I was working, and I was like, "What did he say about Dylan?" And I never really got into Bob Dylan. Whether
Uh-huh.
I know a few songs I like, but it's not what I sit around and listen to.
I used to have boxes of cassette tapes of live shows that
Oh wow.
I saw them twice, but like I would trade tapes on the internet in the '90s and stuff.
I never saw him live. I know he came to Jacksonville um, late '90s maybe. He's
Mm.
probably been here since, but he played this place, and somebody who went to the show told me that he doesn't play any of his old stuff anymore. So
It goes all over the place.
yeah, so
Sometimes does, sometimes doesn't.
right, and that was the thing about you too. Back to that song, they were great in the '80s and '90s, and apparently now they have no interest in playing Pride in the Name of Love
Uh,
or any of that. And I'm like, that, look, I don't, I wasn't one of those people that got really pissed off that they gave their album away for free
mm.
on iTunes. People lost their mind over that.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, okay, so
I've referenced that as sometimes as an intro at shows. I think one time I said, this next song, when you get home, it's gonna be on your phone.
that's, that, that's fucking great. That,
Yeah.
hell yeah. Um, so the first album listed on Bandcamp is an FHC's.
And FHC's advice.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I can read too.
Yeah.
um, like I told you before, it wasn't my best day at work. So
Sorry.
drop out, don't work, be happy, and I should have taken drugs.
That's right. Yeah.
Like, I think this album was put on here for me today. I'm pretty certain that all of these songs fit my feelings this morning.
Yeah.
So, yeah, don't work, be happy is probably my favorite of those three.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind
Yeah.
of.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Oh, probably when the next EP comes out, I'm gonna have a version of that song that's just called. It'll be "Don't Work." Because like when we do these EPs, I like to add like things at the end. Uh, it'll be "Don't Work, Be Happy," and then in parentheses DSM, which stands for "Don't Sue Me." Because I shouldn't say this on a podcast, but I don't feel like you have to edit this out. That poem at the end there, um, it's a poem I know, and I've written to the widow of the poet, um, in the hopes of paying some money for the rights to use it. But the only way I could find information to contact was Facebook Messenger, and we're on friends, so I assume she's never seen the message. So I'm breaking copyright laws, by reciting that poem at the end. And my hope is that if anybody ever cares, they'll ask me for money and I'll give them some money.
There you go. Yeah.
But I have a version of the song which just doesn't have that poem at the end. It does have it's just the guitar going,
Which brings me to what? Bear with me. There was a
Yeah.
song with no lyrics. Is it Once in a Lifetime AWF?
Oh yeah, once in a lifetime. Yeah, once in a lifetime AWF. Nobody's ever paid attention to that song.
talk about that one because
Okay.
that one threw me off.
Yeah.
That one's completely out of the Feral Housecats
Uh huh.
wheelhouse, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's stupid. That's a stupid sound thing. Although I enjoy the sound of it. Um, all that is, I mean, that's only me, right? Like
Okay.
I just used a looper and I think I had uh, an octave pedal, so I recorded a little simple bass line, and then just let that play on a loop while I uh, played. Um, Once in a lifetime, and then I just made noises, and I had kind of a fancy reverb pedal and delay stuff, so I can make these weird sounds with it, and um, and I just turned on my phone video is all I did, and there's no reason for this to ever be quote released. But then eventually I liked it, and that was technically the second thing I ever posted. And back when Bandcamp was the only thing we had. Once in a lifetime refers to it was like if someone said, "Hey, how'd you make those sounds?" I wouldn't be able to figure out again. I don't remember how. And I don't have that pedal anymore. And then AWF stands for Angry Whales Fucking, which is what I thought. I was like, I'm gonna send this to my friend, and she's gonna say it sounds like Angry Whales Fucking, and so that's why I
I
called it that, and that's all it is. And I do think it's a neat thing. I do get into that kind of music a little bit. That just kind of uh, yeah, I'm really into the krautrock scene, and I feel like uh, it, it's a little bit something like it just drones on, and you get some kind of just cool noisy stuff, and uh, but it's really a whole bunch of just random playing by me very early in my days as a guitar player.
I I, I like it. Um, my opinion, and I'm not a music review person, but I'll tell you what I like. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so it threw me off because I'm working and I'm just going through the songs trying to, and and that one popped up, and I'm like, what?
What the hell is this shit? Yeah.
This went right back to that first album and FHC's advice.
Mm-hmm.
I should have taken drugs. Did I take drugs? I don't remember taking drugs. I'm working. But yeah, that one threw me off.
Don't work.
Don't work. Be happy. Um. So those are the basic, you know, band questions that
Mm-hmm.
everybody's gonna ask you and whatever. Um. Let's ask some fun questions.
Okay, sure.
Who's the biggest troublemaker in the band?
Oh, right now it's our drummer Malcolm. Malcolm Bliss is. It's by the way, it's not his real name. That's his drummer name. Uh, if you meet him in person, he'll tell you. I'll say it's Mikey. That is his name. I'm not gonna go the rest. Uh, he's a musician in his own right in some other groups. He's terrifying to me. He's a brilliant drummer, great, and we haven't had we haven't had any real issues. But man, he's got an opinion on everything. He's very loud, and he talks close sometimes. And I keep thinking that it's only a matter of time before some venue says you're not welcome back. And I'm exaggerating a little bit. He's a really nice dude. I really like him, and he plays freaking great. And he's more experienced than any of us. And I recently sent some friends a picture. You know that just to describe this, it's a meme that goes around a million times, and I found out that it's from TV show called American Choppers, and it's like the two dudes, and there's a dude with a ball cap like this, and then the other dude with the mutton chops, and they're just yelling at each other. And
Yeah.
I was like, and I sent it to a couple of the guys in the band. It's like, hey, here's me and Mikey at practice the other day because he just started yelling at me about how we were playing the Iggy and the Stooges cover. The thing is, when we get through all that, uh, he's way more experienced than me, and most of the times, like when we can get through, I'm like, ah, Well, his idea is actually pretty damn good. But yeah, no question, he's a troublemaker. He's always the one who messages me after out of town gigs and says, "Hey, I left my phone in that guy's car."
So the second part of that question was, and I cut it out. I'm like, because we had a little bit of a text conversation previous to this, and the second part of that question was supposed to be, how has that almost gotten you banned from a venue?
Oh yeah,
Which
never
is
yet,
funny.
never
Never
yet.
yet. Yep.
And the thing is, we've never been close either.
Okay.
I just, well, uh, I mean, I'm probably a pretty vanilla guy myself, right? So like Mikey's a little chaotic, and so it just, I'm probably way off in that. Although historically, I think he with his band, he had a punk band in the mid '80s, and he periodically tours as them now. Um, and that's what I won't mention who they are because he might get mad if I
Right.
did that. I don't
Gotcha.
know. But I guarantee, actually, I know there are some stories of them getting banned from venues and stuff like that. Now he's a pretty crazy dude, but nowhere near as crazy as the stories about his youth.
I like it.
Yeah.
Um, if the feral house cats were actually feral cats, which one of you would survive in the alley the longest?
Oh, probably David, our bass player. Um, he's like as a human being, he's the guy that can fix stuff. He's the guy that does some contracting work or stuff like that. Um, and yeah, he's the resourceful one. So I feel like he'd probably be the best fighter amongst us. Sure as shit wouldn't be me. Um, and he'd also be, yeah, he'd be the one that can figure out how to survive a lot better than the rest of us.
Okay. What is the smallest, grimiest stage you've ever crammed onto?
Oh, we've definitely played some small stages. I'm gonna say, and we played it twice, and I can't wait to do it again. This place called the Smiling Skull Saloon in Athens, Ohio,
Okay.
which is where Ohio University is. Um, and we were just there last month, and the reason it wins this question over others, not only is this tiny stage. So like the first time we played there, me and the drummer were on stage, and the other two were in front of the stage. This last time, we did have the bass up on the stage and guitar player down on the ground. But the reason it takes the cake is this place also, it's on the bottom of a hill, and if it rains a lot, which has happened this summer, that place is going to flood. So that place was flooding. Now flooding, it wasn't like up to your ankles water or anything like that. But then at one point, and it was happening maybe after the first group, something around that. Like I think we had already played some, and then we were the third group or the fourth group out of five. There were five bands that night. Crazy. But anyway, I remember saying to the door person, "Oh, maybe we won't get to play tonight." And he's like, "Ah, nah, floods every time it rains here. It's fine." And that, and I also mentioned Dirty Dungarees, which is where we play in Columbus a lot. There's no stage there. It's just a room and set up whichever part of the room you want to set up in. But Smiling Skull Saloon, and that it's just a beautiful place to be at.
I like it. Yeah, water and amps don't really.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I don't know that my amp or anything got wet. However, when I did go up on stage, I set up my amp, turned it on, played for like 10 seconds, and then the sound stopped, and I couldn't get any sound out of my amp. But I was setting right in front of the amp that the previous group had used and the group after us was going to use. So I just turned to Joey, brilliant musician who set this whole thing up, and Joseph and his Ghost. That's the name of that band. Check them out. In fact, I do have one thing about them I want to say in a moment. But anyway, I said, "Can I use your amp?" He said, "Yeah." So I just plugged into. So it was, yeah, like the bar flooded. My amp didn't work. Plugged it into an amp I didn't know. Just decided not to even mess with any of my pedals. And at least a couple audience members who have seen us a lot said, "Well, that might be the best I've ever heard you sound." So, part of it is because like I don't, we're pretty good about not letting stuff like that phase us.
Yeah, I, I think you kind of
I'm
have to
not
be.
precious about the sound. Like, oh no, it's got to be my Vox with this. It's like, yeah, I like that. It makes me feel better. I like having my mystery brain delay pedal on there, but like when it all really boils down to, if we play together and we're having a good time up there, it works.
Right. Yeah. Um. What was it? What you mentioned a band? I didn't write it down, and I
Oh yeah,
can't
Joseph
remember
and his
shit.
Ghost.
Yes.
The reason I want to mention them is because they have a song that I think it's a brilliant song. It's always their closer, but it also just encapsulates a lot of what I feel about rock and roll. Clearly, what Joey feels about rock and roll, and it's called "Anybody Can Do This." And it's really great. Like maybe not every show, most of the time when they play it, um, he'll hand out a whole bunch of like little percussion toys that belong to his kids, and that like so the audience, you're in the band, for that song,
Oh, that's
and
fantastic.
like the there's a long chorus, and I think I remember it. And if it's okay, I'm gonna recite it here. It's like, if you're feeling down, just write that shit all down. Fuck with a sound. It doesn't take a scientist. Anybody can do this, and then just start. It's great. I mean, and that's just the ethos, and I really like that ethos. Is like I my opinion about guitar playing is one, because when people are like, oh, how'd you learn? I want to learn. It's like, look, if you find three notes, like or a couple notes, if you learn how to go da 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 da, if you do that in like big fucking deal, you're not gonna stick with this. But if you go da 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 da, and you think I'm playing Satisfaction by the Stones, and that little tiny bit makes you feel good, then you're probably gonna keep at it and keep doing it. And then I like it's like, dude, you can like if you can play some power chords, you can write songs. And for me, I felt like when I started realizing that my bar chords sounded like chords when I reached that level, I was like, okay, cool, I can have a band now. And that's what I think. But you don't even need to have that much. You can do less.
I have no guitar skill. Um, I own a couple of guitars. I've wanted to play guitar, and but I picked up the back in the '80s or something. I bought a bass. I can't play it either, and I bought like the Mel Bay. Is it Mel
Oh, the
Bay?
book, yeah,
Yeah, and it doesn't start you off. It just teaches you notes, and and there's nothing there. So I used to subscribe to Maximum Rock and Roll,
mm-hmm.
and they had a section in there for a little while of play these songs, and it was the first time I ever saw tablature because I
Yeah,
can't read music, and they
me
had
neither, really.
uh, it was a Clash song, and anyway, I was like, oh, let me try this out, and I'm like, I'm like, oh shit, that
Yeah,
kind of sounds
sounds
like
like,
that, and but that's all. I learned how to play a couple of U2 songs, um,
yeah, yeah.
and but I don't I never practice the guitar. It's in there. It's plugged into an amp. It's ready to go. I just I don't know. It, I find other things to do. Punk rock is my passion. Playing punk rock, it feels like a job.
Well, I was talking to a friend today at lunch about this kind of thing, and it's true. The When I started playing guitar in my basement, I was what I would tell myself, and I told everybody else, and it was totally true. I don't care if anything comes out of this. This is fun. I'm playing. I mean, the Fall are legendary for very simple songs too. I could play something that sounds like a Fall song, and this really brings me joy. And I don't care anymore. Well, as I got better and I started writing songs, I mean that's not true anymore. I care now. Music is I do feel pressure, right? I feel pressure because I realize there are things I can achieve that I never thought I could achieve before. So yes, there is some stress involved with it. I call it stressing up. Like I'm not stressing to stay out of jail or stay healthy or pay my bills. Um, uh, who knows if there's ICE agents marching down the street someday? Maybe I will stress those things. But right now, I'm stressing because uh, because there's something I feel like I could achieve that's greater. So that's why I call it stressing up. I'm stressing about things that are elective, things that I want to do rather than things that I have to do. But yeah, but that's what you say. It is like a job. There is the stress. And my job, I work at a great Trader Joe's. I have no work stress, but music, I give myself work stress.
We have two Trader Joe's here. They're both on the other side of town, and we'll pop in there here and there. They seem like the most laid back employees ever. Like it's relaxing. It's relaxing to go in there, except when they're jam packed with other people. The employees are
Right, which is usually the
fantastic.
case.
It's the other customers that give me
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But I've been working from home for almost 6 years now, and I've become a bit of a hermit, and except for when I go to shows or my wife
Yeah.
makes me leave the house.
Well, I'm glad you're still able to work at home. I mean that uh, that's one of the things that caused one of our recent upheavals in the band. The So we had a long time drum. So after the first group, the folks that said they would be with me for a year, after they left, I got a guy named Evan. Evan Carr was our drummer for quite a while, and most of our recordings, he's the drummer on them. Um, but he played in a lot of groups. And most of his groups are more like, well, he does have one called Car and Company where he's spoken word, and that'll go from jazziness to noisiness and all that. But most of his groups are like real heavy, noisy kind of groups. The kinds of groups that quite often are playing Tuesday night shows, so on and so forth. Well, his wife got the you must return to the office, 5 days a week rather than working at home ever, even though there's no real reason for it, but it's the zeitgeist of the power structure these days. And so when that happened, Evan works as a tennis instructor, and he just realized if he didn't have his weekends free, he's just never going to spend time with his wife. So he had to drop out of our group at that point in time. So anyway, that's why I just say, because I'm glad you're still able to work from home.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a kind of a revolt. I mean,
Yeah.
for a lot of our employees. You ever played a gig where the crowd was more dangerous than the band?
Not really, not yet. Someday maybe. But I'll give one brief example, a little bit. Not exactly that, not dangerous, because it was just kids moshing. But it's a funny story, and it's actually when I was in a different group. I played for a while. I was in a punk band called The Exhausted, and I was the guitar player, and we were playing a show at that Dirty Dungarees that I mentioned, and this was one of our first shows there, and we were playing with a bunch of metal bands. And Dirty Dungarees, there's no stage. You're here, and the crowd's there in the same room with you, and they do a lot of hardcore shows there, and of course, slam dance, moshing with the band is encouraged and all that. So we're playing, and then we were a pretty heavy band, and I wasn't as a guitar player. It was just like I just played the power chords and tried to keep up. It was the best I could do, but we had this. So at one point in time, somebody like banged into one of my guitar pedals or something like that. Didn't harm anything. But like I'm sitting there thinking, because anytime I'm at a gig, and if any kind of slamming starts, I'm just like, cool, I'm just gonna move away. I did a little bit of that when I was younger. I got arthritis on my knees now. I'm fine, but it's like I'm much more fragile than I used to be. I could bump things and hurt them a lot more. And being a guitar player, I'm now paranoid about hurting my fingers. And so it's like, fine, I'm just going to back off that. So I can't back off when I'm playing, right? But some dude sees that my guitar pedal or maybe my amp got bumped or whatever, and decides that he is going to stand right in front of me and protect my gear. Which to me, it was like, this dude's protecting my body. That's awesome. So that's the closest, you know, that's not much, but no, we have not, had that experience. I hope, I mean, I don't want that. Right. But on the other hand, uh, when things get a little bit chaotic, it's because there's more people that care.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
there's more people excited. And so if that comes to be the case someday, I will, I will revel in that.
Yep. Enjoy every experience.
Yeah.
The last fun question: does success scare you more than playing to an empty room?
Uh, no. And that's actually a really profound question, in my opinion. And I think about that stuff a lot because fear of success is a pretty big, serious thing. And like, you know, I mentioned earlier, once I realized I can play, I can be in a band, I can write songs that I think are good, now there's pressure on me for that, right? And I have experienced that in my life a lot, in that there's lots of things that I love the fantasy of, oh, wouldn't it be so cool when I write this great play or whatever? But as soon as you start, if you have any trouble, or even if it goes well, then you're like, oh, now I really have to do it. Now that, but and that's why I feel very confident that I'm doing the thing I should be doing. Because once I started playing in this band, created this band, um, that's not, I don't have that feeling anymore. Like, I mean, I'm nervous about it. Yes, if I show up somewhere and there's a huge crowd, I get nervous. Um, but but no, I'm also very confident that I'm going to deliver something that I think is good, and probably a lot of other people are going to feel that way too. And if they don't, they don't.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I mean, I love the thought behind even asking that question.
I talked to a lot of bands, and I was telling a guy in a local band, I said, you know, I want you guys to get as famous as you want to get. And I'm going to tell you that too. I want you to get as famous as you want to get. If you want to be ACDC or Reverend Horton Heat to be more rockabilly,
Yeah.
Stray Cats, um, cool. If you guys want to be the most famous band in your town, cool. Be as famous as you want to be. Be as
Yeah.
famous as you feel like, you know, be as you want, as you feel comfortable being.
Uh huh.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. So,
Yeah. That's an interesting thought because like usually what I describe the goal is I want to be better, more active, and more successful than we are now at all times, right?
yeah.
And then, but if I had to, like, I don't have a number to put on it. Um, right now, it feels like, my goodness, wouldn't it be incredible if we were the kind of band that could pull 300 people at a show? You know, because we're not. Um, and and 300 people, you know, paying attention and kind of going wild and all that. So that feels like that would be a great level. But I guarantee you, if I ever did reach that, I'd be like, man, I'd really like to see what it'd be like if we could be the kind of group that could pull 1,000 people at shows, you know.
Right.
So it's exactly. Um, but then when you talk about an empty room, um, I mean, I do get disappointed if I'm at a show and it's like, oh, there's nobody going to be here. As soon as we start playing, I don't care. As soon as we start playing, it's like, this is the coolest practice we've had. And in fact, great example, we just played this past weekend. And this was a first time for me. We played a birthday party. A dude in Canton, Ohio, is about a 2 hour drive. And he is the father of a college girl that works with me at Trader Joe's. Right? So one time, a couple years ago, I'm sure I was talking about the band. She remembered the name and told her dad, and her dad really liked us. And he hired us for his 50th birthday party, and it's, you know, not an insane amount of money, but more money that, or it tied the highest we've ever been paid for a gig. So we go up there, and it's like we set up our own PA, first time we've ever done that. We're playing on this trailer that he had set up, and we played two sets. We've never played this long, and every song we'd finish, and there'd be no sound whatsoever, right? And I'm like, that's fine. And then after each set, there'd be a handful of people that would come, not just say, "Hey, you sounded great," but ask some specific questions, like sometimes about lyrics. I'm like, okay, so some people really were paying attention. Um, but it was weird. It felt like playing into an empty room. There are a lot of people over there. But what I've never done before is play a party. So the people weren't there to see a band. We play clubs and bars where people are there to see bands. They may not be there to see us, and sometimes they are there to see us, but at least they're there to see bands. So that's why this was a little bit of a weird feeling, but like we were, I felt like we were playing so well, and this setup with suddenly Dave the bass player, the guy that I said would live longest as a feral cat in the alley. He's like, "Oh yeah, I got a PA. I'll just go get it from my mom's house." And this PA was working great for us. It was like, man, I'm just up there playing, thinking, well, nobody here cares, but they also don't seem to be annoyed that we're here, and we're sounding really good, and we're learning how to use this PA. This is awesome.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I missed one other question. Dream gig. Who would you like to play with?
Ah, well, that's a really cool one. I'm not 100% certain. Uh, I no, I do know. The dream would be if Luke Haynes and Peter Buck were doing a tour of the U.S. If I got to play with him, like I said, we don't sound like him, and he might think we suck. But that's one I'd really like. But if it also, we're talking about a dream, right? So it doesn't have to be. It's not realistic. So why does it have to even be scientifically realistic? It could be bands that don't exist anymore. So a dream gig then would be a show of us, the birthday party, which was Nick Cave's original band before Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds,
Okay.
and the Fall.
Okay.
And I'm sure that there'd be lots of fights, and it'd be awesome. Those bands used to play together a little bit, but in the early '80s.
I I I went off on a tangent a
Uh-huh.
little earlier and forgot to mention a couple other songs from the Unheardable EP.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Rock and roll is not convenient.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
So true. It's
Yeah.
the lyrics in that were just kind of like, damn man, that's it. Like
Yeah.
I have friends. I go to a lot of shows alone. I have friends. I have friends that like the same music as I do, but I'll call them up and say, hey man, this band is playing right down the street. Um, they're iconic '80s punk band playing on a Tuesday night. Um, the original members of Suicidal Tendencies without Mike Muir played on a Tuesday night here in Jacksonville. First time they'd been here in forever. It was me and three other people in that crowd.
Damn. Yeah.
And as a fan, as a 56-year-old fan who does not get in the pit anymore because I have to think about, broken hips and,
Yeah.
it was the best for me. I felt terrible for the bands. The bands all put on a show like they were playing to a 20,000 seat.
Yeah. That's great. That's
Yeah,
the way, man.
yeah. I mean, they could care less how many. And I got to meet them after the show, and they signed my shit and took pictures, and they were amazing. And I said something about not feeling bad and they're like, we don't care, man.
Yeah.
We don't care how many people are in the crowd. We're gonna play it like it's a stadium, and that's cool. But yeah, it's not convenient. I got to get up to go to work on Wednesday morning. I got to get up. I get it, but it's not.
Yeah.
I don't do it every night. Um,
Yeah.
Something Good was
Yeah. And that song,
fantastic as well. Go ahead.
what's that?
Sorry, Something Good.
Oh yeah, thank you. Well, I'll give a brief bit about both of those. So that's also, though that EP is the only time a guitar player named Danny Stoffer was with us, and Danny is a friend of mine. I had played with him with a group that never even played. because before we did, the leader, who was a 64-year-old retired man, passed away from COVID. But anyway, so Danny is the lead guitar player on that stuff, which is why that's got all those incredible solos on it. Yeah, not convenient for me. Like that song springboarded us a little bit too, to a little bit of a bigger level of, you say, popularity. We do have a really cool music video on YouTube of that one.
Okay.
So if anybody's interested in checking out Feral Housecats on YouTube, that is our one fully professional video. Gateway Drug, a Christmas song. The same studio is making a video of that, which I hope we'll have in early December. But and it's set in a diner, and like we're diner employees, but also trying to play songs. But yeah, that's one of those ones where I wrote it and I thought it does feel like a rock and roll anthem. It does feel like the thing that a lot of people will latch onto. And then, it's kind of hard to judge at our level, which is very small, what people like. It did better on Spotify than other songs. So that leads me to believe that. And the theme of it, really what inspired it to me is just we all know people who are like, you know what, I would have been in a band, but, and it's like, well, I could never find, usually it's like, I could never find people who would do the things I want. And it was like, what are the things you want? Well, I want to play like 1 gig a month, but we can only practice on Wednesdays between 7 and 10. It's like, yeah. And that's why there have been like almost a dozen members of the Feral Housecats in 4 years, because I'm really good at accepting people with what they can give rather than, well, you have to give what I want. When I mentioned earlier Evan Carr, so he's the drummer on that song. When he agreed to join the band, he said, I'll only really be able to practice with the band about once a month, but I will practice songs on my own. And that's not optimal. That's not what I wanted. But I was like, okay, let's give it a try. And it worked partially because he's really good, partially because my songs are simple, and partially because he worked really hard, this time. But that's the thing where lots of people I've met would have said, oh, okay, well, that won't work. And next thing you know, they don't have a band.
Right.
And so that's why rock and roll is not convenient. Something Good was a really big moment for me. One day when we were practicing it, and this was this was the first new songs, Not Convenient and Something Good, and That's What You Would Do, were the first new songs with the people who replaced the original lineup. And like the guy who had been the guitar player moved over to bass, and then I got these two new guys, Danny and Evan. And at a practice, and like I knew how brilliant Danny was as a guitar player, but so far in practices, he'd always sounded good, but it had never really come out. And so the practice, and I was just recording on my phone, and we played that song, and now he was finally hit the point where he was comfortable knowing how the song went to do everything he wanted to do. And I was just like, this band has jumped, because we got freaking nasty ass guitar solos in there. And that's what that song Something Good had, from a sound standpoint. The music, it's, I like to say that if anybody likes the Feral Housecats and wants to know why we're good, it's because I rip off interesting stuff. I mean, the main chords of that, it's very simple, it's a 3-chord thing. It's very simple. But I, basically, there's this punk rock band from Sweden called Ebba Grön, and I had seen them at a festival in 2000, and I had seen their lead guy, whatever, because they were from the 80s. And I was there with a Swedish friend. He's like, oh, yes, he's playing the classic Statani Capitale. And it's just this brilliant song. And so eventually, I took a lot of sound, a lot of riff things from that song and then screwed them up to make them my own, was how that came about. And then that theme is just a theme that, like, when I mentioned earlier, I had some songs about a breakup with a girl who is still a really good friend of mine. But when I started coming out of the real doldrums of, hey, she and I aren't together again, I reminded myself that I used to say that it's like there's something good around the corner. I don't know what it is, but there's something good coming, and and I think that's a really important mentality because there are great opportunities around there. And you don't know what they are, and if you're in there with like nothing good ever happens, I don't have what I want, you're not going to see those because they're going to come out and you're like, well, that's bullshit. That's not going to be good for me. And so I really try to live by that mentality. I fail quite often. Like I get in the doldrums too, but I don't always fail. And so the song wasn't about this, but to me now, that song is about losing, or it feels like it's kind of about like, all right, so I had a year of the Feral Housecats with the original lineup, and I didn't know if we were going to be able, if I was going to be able to go on after that. And then this new lineup took over, and we started creating things like that. And so that's the something good that came about. And so a lot of times, you know, I when I introduce a song, because I definitely talk in between songs a lot, generally with a little bit of a plan. But that's something I just try to hype up a little bit to the audience. Is like, and you've heard it in that live version. It's like, now we're gonna play something good. Now I'm sure you know you're like, Greg, aren't all your songs good? It's like, yeah, but this song is something good. Another line I like to use though that's unrelated, but I still just want to say it. It's like sometimes before that song I like to say, we're the Feral Housecats, and by the end of this show, you're either gonna like us or you're gonna don't like us. But either way, that's just like your opinion, man. An old Big Lebowski thing. Anyway, I don't know why that came to mind because that's
Nope,
not.
I like it. Yeah,
But that is the song where I use that.
Big Big Lebowski might be one of the most quoted movies ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
it.
we played in a bowling alley in front of a crowd of like 3 or 4 people. So I did Big Lebowski intros to every single song, you know.
There was a question. There was a question that popped up. If someone told you your music sounded like a fight breaking out at a bowling alley, would you take that as an insult or a compliment?
Oh, that's a compliment. Totally.
I
Totally.
wasn't gonna ask that one. I was like, but you
Yeah.
mentioned bowling
Yeah.
alley. I'm like,
Awesome.
I'm going for it.
Because that description sounds a little bit like chaos, and I like us to sound like chaos. I like us. We have recently gotten some reviews, like Maximum Rock and Roll had a review of our split 10-inch record that we have, and periodically the reviews will say things like, they kind of always sound like they might fall apart, but then they don't quite. And I like that. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that I'm actively trying to create it because I don't know how to, but I like that that's the vibe we give off.
I mean, not seen you live, I didn't realize there was a YouTube video. There will be show
Oh,
notes.
there's tons of live videos too.
I'll have links in the show notes. This
Yeah,
is
yeah.
going to be starting out. It's going to be on YouTube and Spotify as I move up. I'll have it on all the podcasts wherever you listen to your podcasts. But YouTube and Spotify allow me to put show notes on there, and they both allow me to have video. So that's
Excellent.
yeah. I didn't mention Space Rocks and Schlitz.
Yeah, Space Rocks and Schlitz.
That's a
yeah.
fun one.
Yeah.
Super fun.
Now that is where I do get political. Not everybody gets it, but like the song's just about aliens come to Earth, but they're like MAGA rednecks.
Oh yeah,
You know,
yeah.
we've come to your planet to drink all your Schlitz. We're gonna dance to some Ted Nugent hits.
Yep. Show us your tits. There's a
Yeah,
line.
here's a
Yep.
couple Space Rocks.
Show
Shows
us your
that's sort of like on the old like New Orleans beads. You know,
Yeah.
the aliens
Yep.
think we'll give you. Yeah, right. Yes, and that one's we still play that a lot. I love that song. Yeah.
Yep. God, Schlitz. Bad memories.
And I
Bad memories.
So I haven't
of that
I haven't
stuff.
had a drink in almost 9 years. I used to be a drinker, and my opinion about beers was I usually would drink good beers, but I did not drink what I call football beers. It was like if I see them advertised during the football game, I don't want it. I don't want Bud Light. I don't want Miller Lite. So if you don't got good beers, give me your worst. And Schlitz
Schlitz
certainly, and
definitely
it's called
fits that.
Schlitz. It's
Yeah,
like what an awesome name.
yeah. Schlitz and
Flats.
PBR. I can't
Oh
stand
yeah,
PBR.
yeah,
Can't touch it. And I'm not. Well, I honestly I can't drink beer nearly like I used to. I'm too old for that shit. But yeah. I enjoy a Miller High Life.
yeah.
The
High Life
champagne
was
of
okay.
beers.
Yeah, I like that title. Um, uh, Schlitz. Uh, I'm also not. I have many years as a huge sports fan. I'm from Cleveland originally. I'm not. As time goes on, I just less and less and less. And this might be the first year I don't even pay attention to the Browns, but we'll see. But used to be a huge baseball fan. You know, the Guardians, back then the Indians, and me and a buddy came up with a superstition when the Indians were in the World Series in 1997 against the Florida Marlins. It seemed like whenever one of us would open up a Schlitz can, the Indians would score 2 runs.
It's only weird if it doesn't work.
Yeah, and well, and then like Game 7, they go to Game 7. My buddy, tells me he's out of Schlitz. He was in St. Louis at the time, and I'm in Columbus, Ohio, and I have one left. I open up the Schlitz, and they took a 2-1 lead, and they lost that game 3-2 because neither of us had any more Schlitz.
Yeah. Some of those what do you call those things? The
Superstitions.
superstitions. Thank you.
Yeah,
Some some are real. I mean,
yeah,
they're it's only weird if it doesn't work.
yeah.
So what's a question that you wish people would ask?
Um, well, I think I did already mention it earlier, but I'll mention it again because it fits that really well. Is um, what makes why should I listen to what makes your band interesting? What makes the Feral Housecats interesting? Why should I listen to that? And the answer is because I rip off more interesting music than other people rip off. And then I was gonna say no, that's not a question. I wish people asked that question. I was gonna say the flippant answer would have been like, "When's your next show?" But people ask that question all the time. They just don't go to it, or a question I wish they would ask less. What time do you guys go on today? It's like I will tell you. I'm not going to be a jerk about this, but of course it means you want to come see us and then leave, which I don't like. I mean, whatever. But if that's what it takes to get someone to see you, that's what it takes. But because we all have that dream of you want to play, you want to think that people are coming because I want to experience some good music,
Right.
right? And instead, they're coming because I want to go support my friend. And that being said, I want people to come support me as their friend. So I don't want to, like, when they say that, I try not to, like, I try to just give the actual answer.
Right.
What time do you go on? We go on probably at 9.
Yeah.
The other band's awesome. Yeah, I'll stick around.
I don't like I said, I try and go to as many shows as I can. And my kid went to college 2 years ago. Our kids, all three of them are between me and my wife. We have three. I have one. She had two before me. So they're all out of the house in college. I spent the last 4 years of my son's high school career as a roadie for the marching band, and now I have time to see shows, to do stuff
Yeah.
for I mean, I got to go to shows here and there when he was growing up, but I'm trying to be a dad. So now that he's out, I'm like, I love my wife and want to spend as much time here as possible, but I haven't been to a great punk rock show in forever. So this is what I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing. I'm going to shows. I'm, talking to bands. I'm going to start this podcast. I want to promote these bands, help them out. Um, all that being said, I go to these shows and um, people, you walk in and there's four people there on a Saturday night, four people there for the opener,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe 20 for the second band, and then, maybe 100 for, and then, two, 300 for the headliner. And I'm like, dude, you paid the same amount for the ticket as I did,
Mm-hmm.
and I get four times the show. I don't, I get it. People have jobs. They can't, but people are like, I don't know that band. I'm not going to see them.
Yeah.
I don't get that part. Like,
Yeah.
if you don't like
There's
them, step outside, go next door and get a hamburger while they play.
yeah.
If you don't love them, but I don't know. I, I
Yeah.
go, I'm there early, stay late. Yeah. And that's just
The
me.
trick with it is, of course, we really have to figure out, or well, like what is someone getting out of going to a show, right? Because there's a
Right.
lot of things. Some people are like, I want to see and hear some really cool music, but that's not all of it. A lot of it is I'm gonna go to support my friend, or I want to be known as someone who was at this show. I want to be seen, and we, like it's just really it's hard to know what thing you
Why?
can use to so like because yeah, it's frustrating to me when we'll play a show and like some friend of mine who's in the music community, so I know them, but they haven't seen us. They haven't seen us the way we are now. I'm like, oh man, you're at the show. That's awesome. And then by the time we play, they've left. Um, but I have. That's why I feel like I've gotten pretty good at. Look, man, when I'm once we start playing, I don't care because I'm having a great time playing with the guys. And in reality, if the Feral Housecats are ever going to mean anything to anybody, it's not going to be because of my friends, right? Like we all have that thing. It's like, oh man, if I could just get all my friends and family behind me, then the crowds would be a little bit better, and it would be a better time for everybody, and it would spiral. And it just doesn't work that way.
No.
And so I don't know if we're ever going to grow to such a level. I mean, we got you, right? Like you're not my well, we're friends now, but we catch people here and there, and I'm always just trying to improve us by one listener at a time.
Yep.
Um, but but I have to kind of divest myself of that because here's the other thing. There are lots of people who at least with us, and I know it's happened with me too. I've done this to other people. They've seen us. They've seen us several times, and then for some reason they'll hear a song and they'll be like, "Holy shit! I didn't know you guys were that good." I'm like, "Well, you've seen us play that song 4 times, and we play it better live than that recording." But because when we're at shows, like first you got to get people to go to the show. Then your next step is them to stay while you're playing. Then the next step is them being in the room you're playing in rather than the other room of the bar. And then the next is having them listen. And then the next is having them listen with an open mind. And that's really, that's a lot to ask of people. Because, like, I know that when we play local clubs, which is most of our shows, the majority of the people there, I think, at our shows, when we're playing for 20 to 50 people, I always feel like the majority of the people there are in a band themselves. And if you're in a band, there is that temptation to be like, and you're just watching. You might like it, but like your mind is because when I see another band, I'm often thinking if I think they're really good. One thing that does come to mind for me is why does someone listen to us if they could listen to this? And so my other part of the mind has to combat that. It's like, well, we're actually more interesting because of this and this, and that's going on in other people's minds too.
Yeah.
And I think I'm very open minded about it, and I realize, well, that's dumb. I'm just having a great time, but I don't think everybody does that.
Yeah. It's kind of hard. I would imagine, but I think my opinion, the key is stay true to what you do and get better every
Yeah.
time. That's, you aren't, I mean, society nowadays, we all judge our lives based on the Instagram and Facebook lives,
Yeah.
and you can't. You're never.
And
Not
you
to
know what
get
else
into
about
the.
that too is we judge ourselves on that stuff, and of course you're judging against these things that people have curated to make look really awesome, right?
Yeah.
And it makes you feel down. But you know what else is? But then when people have their online meltdowns, and they're just, that doesn't make us feel better, right?
No.
Like and so yes, using that and look, like I've been talking to you now. Well, we're closing in on 2 hours. This is probably the longest I've gone
Oh
without
damn.
checking social media in a long time,
Holy crap.
you know. And I do the same shit. I'm looking at it all the time. But yeah,
I did not
yeah,
realize we
yeah.
were almost 2 hours.
Yeah. Well, that's because I'm that interesting, and so
You
are you,
are.
man.
You're fantastic, man.
Thanks.
Um. So I think I think I've exhausted my list of questions.
Yeah, we got.
You have been fantastic. I really want to thank you for reaching out. I do appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you, Tom.
And definitely for the back and forth with trying to schedule this thing. What do you have?
So this is like one of my things that I really try to do, and this is a great example of how it worked. Um, it doesn't happen all the time, but if someone follows us on Instagram, I do try to. So it's weird. Depending on how your page is, sometimes I can message immediately, and sometimes I can't.
Right.
But if I can, I do like to message people, just like I did with you. I like to look at their page first, so that there's a like, I mean, so that I can at least point out, hey, I recognize you're not like, so you don't think that, oh, I clicked a button and it sent a canned response. And yes, I always send a link to a song because I'm hoping people will listen, because people will follow you on social media and then never pay attention. But it's in the hope of, I might, who the fuck knows what may happen. This is rare that someone, cool, I like your music, I'm going to do a podcast. But and sometimes it gets me a listener. Some kid recently made us a little video
Nice.
because that's how the conversation started.
So what do you have live coming up?
It's actually the smallest calendar we've had in quite a while, because Malcolm, the drummer, Malcolm Mikey, is going on tour in mid-September, and we just now got together with our alternate. So I'm hoping to start booking some more things in either in October or November. But we are playing this weekend at the Frogwood Skate Shop, and it's in a town called Newark, Ohio.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry, Heath, Ohio, which is near Newark, and it's about 45 minutes away. So I've never been there. We're playing that one. We're playing with four groups, although they're all Columbus groups that I know. And then on September 5th is the 10th and final ever Pointless Fest, which is where we recorded that live and fairly pointless
Oh, okay.
live album. So they get really great quality there. Like they do a soundboard recording, and it's just this someone's property in the woods, and they built a stage there. It's just this glorious thing in outside of Chillicothe, Ohio, and so I'm kind of hoping maybe a live album. Maybe the recordings are worthy of doing that again.
That'd be
A
cool.
live album, although that'll be the first show with the all Dave lineup, except for me. But yeah, so those are the only live things right now.
Okay. Well, we will put all the links and all the dates and
Yeah,
stuff in the show notes. But thanks for being a punk hero, man.
you got it. Thank you, Tom.
That was Greg McGill of Feral Housecats, straight out of Columbus, Ohio. Loud, messy, and probably halfway to getting banned from another venue as we speak. Just kidding, they've never been banned. If you dug what you heard, go catch them live before they self-destruct, implode, or just disappear into the back room of some dive bar. Check their music, buy a shirt, or just scream along in the pit. This is Punk Heroes, and I'm Tom Albrecht. signing off before the amps blow and the cops show. Stay loud, stay ugly, and don't let the claws catch you on the way out.